Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with this Nigerian newspaper. The major story here, Bolanle, you have to die by hanging. That's the judgment passed on the police officer whom the court sentenced over the murder of Lagos lawyer Bolanle Rahim. The police officer was sentenced to death by hanging just yesterday. And another story here at the top corner, we've not reintroduced subsidy payments, says Kyari, as the NNPCL GCEO. That's the group executive officer there speaking with regards to statements coming out that subsidy payment had been reintroduced into the system. But while he was at the presidency yesterday, said that subsidy payment has not been reintroduced. All right, and to another story here. Africa has shortfall of 5.3 million health workers. And Abulele, ex-WMA president, speaking. Africa has shortfall of 5.3 million health workers. And Abulele, ex-WMA president, speaking. Now another story. Agbakoba berates media armchair lawyers over debates on Tinubu's certificate. Police Agbakoba berates media armchair lawyers over debates on Tinubu's certificate. The senior advocate of Nigeria has been speaking about this matter, that Nigerians should wait for the Supreme Court to decide on the matter. Another story here, Lokobiri declares commitment to APC, denies working with Diri. Lokobiri declares commitment to APC, denies working with Diri. This is a matter leading up to the November elections in Bayelsa. Now, another story. Wike faults EU over report on 2023 presidential polls. And there's a picture here of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, speaking with the ambassador's visit in Abuja yesterday. The European Union ambassador to Nigeria, Samuela Isopi, there as they were speaking. We'll move now to the front page of the Daily Independent. The major story here, FG denies subsidy return, says market determines fuel price. Federal government denies subsidy return, says market determines fuel price. And some riders here, Tinubu saved NNPC from bankruptcy. The group executive officer there, chief executive officer speaking, Mele Kyari. Nigeria to be net exporter of petroleum products by 2024. He is also saying that. And another story, why Naira may continue to lose value by ex-CBN Deputy Governor. Tinubu certificates out, Agbakoba asks lawyers to stop media trial. Another story here, court sentences police officer to death for shooting lawyer dead. Israel's Netanyahu says Gaza offensive has only started. Attacks will reverberate for years. And we have seen a number of persons killed in the offensive, in the attacks, in some days now. Now, security operatives kill 67 bandits, rescue 29 kidnapped victims in Bauchi. Aviation engineers reject doctors' COS documents for members. Payment for revitalization of tertiary institutions underway. Minister is speaking and says godfatherism has crept into university system. ASU is president is saying that. We move quickly now to the Punch newspaper. Federal government denies subsidy return. More fuel stations shut. NNPCL blames pocket of fuel queues on road delays. And it says 25 refinery licenses idle over subsidy. He's still speaking. And then we have a picture here where the slain lawyer, Lagos MBA, welcomes death sentence for killer cop. The picture of the late Bolanle Rahim here, as well as the police officer who shot her dead and has now been sentenced to death by hanging, also on the front page here of the Punch newspaper. Now, another story, domestic airlines demand jet fuel import license forex. Concerns as commercial sex workers invade Lagos malls. Leo Men, Ayedatiwa drops suit against Ondo Assembly. Those are some of the stories you find on the front page of the Punch newspaper. We'll move to the Nigerian News Direct. Controversy trails alleged secret payment of subsidies. NNPCL insists government has ceased paying subsidies. Forex shortage stalls importation of fuel as NNPC now sold petrol importer as Israeli crisis fuels surge of oil prices. And brain drain, federal government approves engagement of retired doctors and nurses, others on contract. Some have said this is a welcome development. Now to the Daily Sun. Nigeria to export fuel next year. Federal government is speaking. Gary says removal of fuel subsidy saved NNPC from bankruptcy. And the picture of the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, with the Ambassador of the EU, who paid him a courtesy visit yesterday on the front page here. Now, another story, church leaders charge Tinubu to end security and insecurity, rather. Police rescue 171 kidnapped victims from terrorists in Katsina. Some of the stories you find on the front page of the Daily Sun. To Daily Trust now, cooking gas price hits 1,200 naira per kg. Cooking gas price hits 1,200 naira per kg. Marketers are blaming supply disruptions, say further hike likely. Nigerians may resort to using firewood, experts are speaking. And federal government working with NLNG to ramp up supply, as some officials are saying. And we see pictures here, right? Please stand by as demonstrators in support of Israel show Israeli flags during demonstration in Duisburg, Western Germany yesterday. These are some of the pictures. And then Tinubu's economic policies going awry. Financial Times is reporting that, asks president to stop announcing plans without implementation idea. All right, and quickly, this story on the top corner here says, will Liberians elect another female president today? That's the question. Fuel scarcity as stations close in Lagos, Kano, others. Some of the stories you find on the front page of the Daily Trust. Ibrahim.
Yeah, the first I have with me here is the Nation newspaper. The headline reads, Tinubu, I'm focused on lifting Nigeria to greatness. And the writer reads, SGF briefs president, there is stability under APC government, says envoy. And above the scribbling headline here under the folio line is the president appoints Fela Durotoye, 4 others as aides. You see that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And above the nameplate, no return to petrol subsidy, says NNPCL will export fuel next year. Christmas Day killer cop to die by hanging, 3,298 on death row. EU observers report created wrong impression, says Wiki. Kiamo saying airlines must pay compensation for flight delays. And on the bottom strip of the Nation newspaper, Southeast Senate caucus renews push for additional ministerial slots. That's on the Nation newspaper. Next is the Leadership newspaper. And the scribbling headline here is on insecurity, saying 60,000 schools vulnerable to attacks nationwide, 9 years after Safe School Initiative struggles. You see that on the infographics on the front page of the newspaper. You can read that further on page 4. Israel-Palestine conflict will have minimal impact on Nigeria, that's experts. This belying the report yesterday, or dismissing the report yesterday that the impact of the Israel-Palestine conflict will affect Nigeria. Fuel subsidy has not returned, Kyari insists. That's on page 17. And Bolanle Rahim, killer cop to die by hanging. That's on page 4. Diphtheria, Yobe records 117 deaths, 1,796 cases. Go on alive, hale and hearty. That's according to Maggie. You see that on page 4, telling us that Gowon is alive, as against the report saying that he is dead. Above the nameplate on the front page of the Leadership newspaper is Kano government bars appointees from receiving palliatives. 67 bandits killed, 29 kidnapped victims rescued in Bauchi. That's on page 6 of the Leadership newspaper. Next is the Guardian newspaper. Scarcity of diagnostic services cripples cancer care in southeast states. Also, there is anxiety in Benue as Cameroon sheds excess water from Lagdo Dam. We'll be discussing this in the course of our program this morning. Shiites, PFN differ as Hamas-Israel conflict drags into third day. Marketers groan, seek subsidized FX as federal government offers 90 import licenses. Find out on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. That's about it on the Guardian newspaper. And the last but not least is the blueprint. As Israel-Hamas crisis worsens, that's the kicker, and the headline reads, Arab ministers meet amid global tension. Arab ministers meet amid global tension. EU freezes $729 million aid to Palestinians. Supply concerns as crisis jolts crude price. Shiites lead solidarity protest in Abuja. Lagos halts pilgrims airlift to Israel. You find all of these on page 6 of the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. And below the nameplate, we have Kano Assembly passes 58 billion naira supplementary budget. That's on page 5. CSU, armchair lawyers heating up polity. Agbakoba warns. Armchair lawyers heating up polity. Agbakoba warns. And Pengerson demands salary benchmark for oil workers. Pengerson demands salary benchmark for oil workers. That's also, we have foreign reserves dropped by $841 million in 3 months. Foreign reserves dropped by $841 million in 3 months. Below the picture here, we see the wreck in the Israel-Hamas crisis, where Palestinians search for survivors after an Israel airstrike on building in the refugee camp of Jabalah in Gaza Strip on Monday. Tinubu appoints Durotoye, 4 others into presidential media team. You see that on page 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. And federal government not paying fuel subsidy, NNPC insists. CBN defends e-Naira, refutes claims of threat to financial stability. That's on page 21. And last but not least, on the bottom strip is the Killer Cop. Bolanle Rahim, with 27 exhibits tendered, court sentences killer ASP Vandi to death by hanging. With 27 exhibits tendered, court sentences killer ASP Vandi to death by hanging. That's on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper, and this may put a closure to the issue of the killer cop. Maybe the family will find reprieve in this.
With this sentence.
Absolutely. But then, it may not be the last, because they might want to appeal. And also the governors usually find it very difficult to sign
the death warrant yes.
on
so that might also be a challenge.
Absolutely.
As it is. But there's a story I find interesting also on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct is the fact that the federal government is trying to address this matter of brain drain, especially in the health sector, and is looking to engage retired doctors and nurses, others on contract basis. So it's a matter of if you retired at the retirement age, as stipulated by the federal government, you can be re-engaged on contract basis, and chances are you'll be paid the same amount that you retired on or with at the time. And so this is a measure to just bridge the gaps that we are seeing in the health sector. And I think it's a welcome development from my perspective. This experienced hands can, begin to contribute to the society, help us address some of the challenges we are seeing. Yes, it's on contract basis. You may not be there all the time, but with your experience, you may be able to transfer knowledge to some other persons who are growing on the job.
I think it's way to go. It's really way to go. The fact that we're having the younger doctors who are looking forward to greener pastures in other countries, even though when the grasses are not usually greener on the other side.
Well, your opinion, they will say.
That's the truth. That is not always greener. You have to work for what you earn, but they say that they have value for money.
Yeah.
But they pay taxes over there. And how much
We
of
pay taxes
How
here
much of
too.
taxes do you pay, Veronica, here in Nigeria, and compared to what you paid in Malaysia for the few months you spend there? So that's a good. It's a way to go for the Nigerian system, and the fact that you're having the veterans, so to speak, in the medical sector, they will be able to also help and also bring the younger generation who are coming up in this sector to have enough hands.
So there might be some mentoring in the process,
Absolutely.
Because they have passed through this system over the years and have seen different cases, managed different cases. I believe that they'll be able to mentor those who are still growing on the job, as well as consult and just help the system as it is, because we need these hands, one must say. But so it's a good way to go, and we hope that the government will not renege on its agreements with them, saying that they will pay them as it is. So the job is not for free, so you can just engage governments, follow through the processes, now that the government is looking to engage retired doctors and nurses.